I absolutely think so, just because at the end of the day, I just think people don't care. At the end of the day, they want a lot of that instant gratification. They want that instant guilt reliever. They want that thing that's going to make them feel better, and they're not thinking about what it's going to do to their brain 5 years down the line, how it's going to affect their life. All they care about is the now.
So lately, been seeing a lot of health-based posts on Twitter. One of the themes going through is that, this kind of, modern teetotaler movement, right? A lot of people talking about how we shouldn't be drinking alcohol. Alcohol is the only drug that if you don't use it, people think something's wrong with you. It's the only drug that's completely sanctioned by every state government and society at large. We pretend that it is largely beneficial with minor dangers, as long as we're safe and moderate, then everything's going to be all right. And more and more I'm seeing research showing that that's not the case, that it's not necessarily as safe as we have thought. That brought me to this podcast from Huberman Lab. It's put on by a neurobiologist, I believe. He goes through in depth the effects that alcohol can have. They're on the brain and the body, both immediately and cumulatively over time. It is, mildly disturbing to me, because I didn't drink until I was 20, and I didn't drink much until I was 30. And so, I don't have to worry about, whether or not I drank for 20 years and it affected me deeply. It was just about 4 years of my life. I think the thing that really got me, we're all going to get old, and eventually all I'm going to have left is my mind. And, I've watched people age into dementia, and my dad is going through it right now. I don't want to do anything that would accelerate that. And so the thing that was most disturbing to me about this research is the findings about what alcohol does to your brain matter over time. What he talked about is that your brain has white matter and gray matter. And I'm not going to get technical on this at all. This is about as much as it goes. Your brain has white matter and gray matter. Both of them are important.
First of all, gray matter are the neurons, it's the so-called cell bodies that house the genome of the cells, et cetera. And white matter is the connections, the fibers, the so-called axons of neurons. And what they found was that even for people that were drinking low to moderate amounts of alcohol, so 1 or 2 drinks per day, there was evidence of thinning of the neocortex, so loss of neurons in the neocortex, and other brain regions.
He hit that in the first several minutes, and just there's another hour of this podcast. I honestly don't know what's coming up next. After that, there's a number of other mental effects, most of them being minor but degenerative and cumulative over time. The longer you drink, the more extreme these effects get. A lot of them can be mitigated through diet, but none of them can be completely eliminated. That was just, those brain effects are very, very concerning to me, because it's really important to me that I keep my mind for a long time. And then there's a lot of other physical effects that we can get into in a little bit, but I just want to check your thoughts on the brain effects that he was talking about.
So for me, the scientific facts were really cool, and I thought he did an excellent job of delivering the whole message. But you and I kind of discussed a little bit of this. While the science aspect I may not have known, it felt like everything he was saying was what you would refer to as common knowledge. Like, if you drink too much, you're going to kill brain cells. It doesn't take science to tell me that. It tells me that the more you drink on a continuous basis, even for, I guess if you want to say the semi-drinker, the person who might only have 1 or 2 glasses of wine a day or something along those aspects, there's still a considerable amount of damage that you're doing to yourself. So we can go ahead and put that little rumor to bed, that it's okay necessarily to have 1 to 2 drinks a day. I feel, at our age especially, those are things we've already known, because, well, we've both been drunk. So
the thing is, we've known that all that is true, but up until I listened to this podcast, that was a thing that happened if you had 25 drinks a week for 15 or 20 years, then you would be dealing with these problems. All right. And to find out that it is when you have one drink a day for any length of time, these problems start building up. And for every step you take towards this kind of brain degeneration, it is harder to take a step back. Like there are vitamins and diets and all that stuff that he talks about that you can do, but it starts with one drink a day, which is completely normal. A drink a day is no big deal. Nobody would bat an eye. To find out that those effects are that serious from that small an amount of drinking, that is not common knowledge as far as I'm concerned.
How many people have had kind of like a stressful day, whether it's at work, in a relationship, with kids, that you just want to come home and have a drink, and you think that drink is going to help relax you, but the damage you're doing to your brain long term is not. It's because I know he does point out there that in a sense that it does ultimately relax you, it just provides more long-term damage to your brain.
I thought the stress response thing was interesting because he said while it will relax you, as soon as that alcohol leaves your system, your body has an elevated level of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And so you actually leave yourself in a higher physical stress after you've had the drink.
People who drink regularly, so this again could be just 1 or 2 drinks per night, or it could be somebody that drinks just on Fridays or just on Saturdays or maybe just on the weekend, 2 to 4 drinks. Well, those people experience changes that result in more cortisol, more of this so-called stress hormone being released at baseline when they are not drinking. This is really important. People who drink a bit, and when I say a bit, I don't mean 1 or 2 sips or even a glass of wine every once in a while. I mean 1 drink a night with dinner and maybe on the weekend a few more. Well, all of those groups experience increases in cortisol release from their adrenal glands when they are not drinking. And as a consequence, they feel more stressed and more anxiety when they aren't drinking.
Moving on to the physical things, he talks about how when you have a drink to relax and maybe help you get a decent night's sleep, that the sleep you get is not the same sleep you get when you're sober, because even after just 1 glass of wine, your body doesn't respond to sleep the same way, and you're not as rested after that time.
The sleep that one gets after even just one glass of wine or a beer is not the same sleep that you get when you don't have alcohol circulating in your system. When alcohol is present in the brain and bloodstream, that the architecture of sleep is disrupted. Slow wave sleep, deep sleep, and rapid eye movement sleep, all of which are essential for getting a restorative night's sleep, are all disrupted. So for those of you that are drinking a glass or 2 of wine or having a hard liquor drink or a beer in order to fall asleep, the sleep you're getting is simply not high quality sleep, or certainly not as high quality as the sleep you'd be getting if you did not have alcohol in your system.
Well, at the end of the day, it's still a chemical that you're putting into your body. And anytime you put a chemical into your body, any chemicals you put into your body are going to have an effect on it, versus a natural night of just going to sleep, no alcohol. Your body will produce its natural melatonin the way it's supposed to. So, yeah.
But it's not just that. There's so many other things. Sleep is a kind of a multi-system activity, and any imbalance is going to make your sleep more difficult. So I cut down on the amount I drank starting, late last year. It wasn't really an intentional thing. It was just, I noticed I drank less just because it was less likely to happen. It's hardly going out because of a Pennsylvania winter, and just coming from Texas, I was freezing all the time. So I just stayed inside under a blanket where you're supposed to be. But I drank less because of that. And, I found that when I did have a drink, I would get a hangover while I was still awake. So I ended up drinking less and less because it was more and more unpleasant to have a drink at 7:30 and get a hangover at 10:15. As I drank less and less, I started sleeping so much better. It is unreal that I used to struggle with sleep, especially having a toddler. You get 5 hours, you get 6 hours, and the next day is very difficult. But I got to the point now where I can sleep 4.5, 5 hours, and I can get through my day, and I feel fine.
But again, it all fully comes down to the amount you're drinking. So the numbers that he provided are different for every person. Like the mild drinker, if they were to stop drinking, I believe he stated in the podcast that your brain cells and motor functions could the brain...
It'll regenerate.
Yeah, it'll regenerate within estimated. It's not a spot on amount, but estimated within 2 weeks. But then again, those are people who are very, very moderately drinking, people who are drinking every single day. It's going to take a little bit longer. I mean, these are all processes that you can get back. It's just going to take time, and you have to be willing to put in the effort. I'd be curious to see for your sleep pattern as well. I know for me, I used to be a really heavy drinker, especially didn't matter if it weekdays, weeknights, just whatever. Just if I wanted to have a drink, I had a drink. And I noticed kind of it all tied back into when I started working out is I really just stopped drinking during the weekdays, and I noticed my body felt better. I was able to get up to go into the gym in the morning without feeling horrid. I was able to get through my workouts because I'm sure anybody who's done this, but a hangover workout and a regular workout are two very different workouts. They are not the same.
Yeah. A hangover workout is working out your willpower, and actually a regular workout is working out your body.
But mentally throughout the day during the week, I'd feel sharper, I'd feel better. And now I know the one thing he pointed out, being able to tell the difference between somebody who may be an alcoholic or show the genes of alcoholism. And I'm happy to report I'm not one of those, because he started immediately talking about the people that after a few drinks, they just want to go to sleep and they just want to get into bed. And I'm just listening there thinking, yeah, that's me. I have a couple drinks and I'm just like, all right, just point me to my bed. That's all.
Yeah.
Good night.
You know, he mentions that people who find more energy as they have more drinks might be predisposed to alcoholism or several other things. And, you know, that was me years ago for a while. But now, you know, honestly, I went out to dinner with my wife last weekend, and I had 2 drinks over about 4 hours, and I came home and passed out on the couch, just knocked out, couldn't even watch TV. And you know, that's the difference between, you know, 8 years ago, I would go out, I would have 2 drinks before we left the apartment, and then go out and have who knows how many, and I'd get more and more energy until probably 11:30, 12 o'clock, and then I'd start winding down, but I'd stay up till 4 o'clock.
Oh yeah,
easy. And so, you know, part of it's age, part of it's you know, the fact that I don't drink much anymore at all. And I have been looking back at a lot of the stuff that I have written before I started drinking back in my 20s. You know, I'd had some drinks when I was 20, and then not really anything from 21 to 30. And so, you know, I'd look back at some of my writing from my 20s, and looking at it, I'm just like, who wrote this? How did I even come up with these ideas? This is good. Why can't I think like this anymore? And you know, that's just a thing I've been thinking over the last like 5 or 6 weeks as I go back through these writings. And so, you know, listening to this Huberman cast and podcast and hearing that you know, alcohol use is basically has degenerative brain effects over time. It's scary to me, right? Because you know, I cherish my brain. It's very important to me.
Yeah, well, and that's what I kind of go back to the point is, again, it's a lot of common knowledge. It's common sense that alcohol is going to eventually kill a lot of those brain cells that you have going on there, and it's going to do a lot more long-term damage. Like, I don't need a scientist to tell me the basic facts. Now, I'm not knocking on alcohol. Trust me, I love to have a drink every now and then, so I'm not trying to knock it. There's nothing like a good single malt scotch or a beer.
Both of those things are gross, but go on.
But at the end of the day, like, those are things you know.
Let me ask you this, though, because you say it's common knowledge. If it was common knowledge that 1 drink a day could have cumulative degenerative effects starting almost immediately, that 15 drinks a week could drastically increase your risk of certain kinds of cancers, and that 1 drink on a day could ruin your sleep quality, do you really think that so many college-educated Americans in their 20s and 30s would drink so much?
Yes.
If it was common knowledge and they all knew that a little bit over time could give you a degenerative brain disease. Like, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about having a little foggy thinking when you wake up. We're not talking about having to you know, go through detox when you get sober. We are talking about a long-lasting degenerative brain issue that you can mediate, but not completely. If it was really common knowledge, would so many educated people drink so much?
I absolutely think so. I absolutely think so, just because at the end of the day, I just think people don't care. At the end of the day, they want a lot of that instant gratification. They want that instant guilt reliever. They want that thing that's going to make them feel better. And they're not thinking about what it's going to do to their brain 5 years down the line, how it's going to affect their life. All they care about is the now. So college educated or not, period, I think most people just flat out don't care.
I can agree with you about most people, and that's why I mention college educated people, because going through college indicates that you understand how to delay gratification. For a very small percentage, it's 4 super fun years of parties and sex and, making great friends and living your best life. And for most people, it's anxiety and tests and waking up early and not getting enough sleep and all these, really tumultuous things at a very tumultuous time of your life, right? You're still in adolescence, you're still growing and learning how to be. It's first time out on your own for most people. So for most people, it is a very trying experience that takes 4 years, costs a lot of money, and requires a lot of dedication to finish. And because, graduation rates are only in I think they're in the 60%. So obviously they have the ability to delay gratification. In that way, they are separate from at large people who didn't go to college. There are people who graduated from college who can't delay gratification and vice versa. But for the most part, it's a group of people who we know through this evidence that they can delay gratification. We know that they understand how to improve themselves cumulatively to plan for their future, right? That's what college is. It's you working over and over, hour after hour after hour, to make yourself better later in life. But all of these people drink a lot. It's hard for me to think that this is actual common knowledge. Maybe you knew. Well, I believe that you knew, but it's hard for me to look at this and be like, this is common knowledge, and then look at everybody's behavior completely off on the other side. It just doesn't square for me.
There's one of two things that you could factor in here that I think that would maybe help explain it a little bit more. Is one, people know they just don't care, kind of like I already said. The other thing is that, and you'll probably admit you've seen quite a bit of this, but some people call it the God complex, some people call it the Superman complex, where they think that this won't happen to me, I know when to stop, I won't have these same problems. The funny part is that there is no such thing as the Superman complex or the God complex, in the sense that it's going to happen to you one way or the other. It's just, what are you going to do about it in your life? Every ex-girlfriend I've ever had has yelled at me about this, but it's about going to the doctor. I do not go to the doctor. I will go to a doctor or hospital if I have a bone sticking out of me. But most of the time, it's just a common cold. It's just a headache. But I get yelled at all the time because I just look at it as like, it's not going to be that bad. I can take care of myself. And it's just a similar concept that a lot of people have had with alcohol here. It's just like, it's not that bad. This isn't going to happen to me. Just because it happened to that person doesn't mean it will happen.
But that means it's not common knowledge, right? Because we're talking about this. These things are going to happen. This is not you could get a bad batch of weed that has fentanyl in it. And people are like, that'll never happen to me, I'm gonna do it anyway. This is, if you drink, these bad things will happen to you, and then people drink anyway. I think everybody knows if you have 5 drinks every day for 15 years, these things are gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody understands that if you have 1 drink a day, it can happen almost immediately. And that's where the thing, like the common knowledge thing, yes, but the common knowledge is the extreme, not the mundane.
People have this knowledge. They know that alcohol is not necessarily the best thing for you. Again, people just don't care. That's what it is. They want their instant gratification. We live in a world and society right now where we want our gratification now. It's okay if you drink. Again, we're not trying to demonize this or make it sound like a bad thing. Like I've continued to say, I do.
You keep saying we.
Well, because you're part of this.
I have not, made an endorsement for or against alcohol.
I'm just
podcast.
I would like to say that you can do great things in this world, even if you do consume alcohol.
I just so what you're saying is that broad swaths of people, this isn't just an American thing. Every culture on the planet drinks, and every culture, not every culture, but every Western culture has a majority of adults that drink regularly, and a large number who drink daily. And what you're saying is that all of these people know that having a drink every day is going to cumulatively give them negative effects on their health, physical and mental. And yet they just want that glass of rosé so bad that they don't care that it's going to have lifelong implications. And I can't, considering that smoking has gotten completely removed from polite society in America, I can't imagine that those same people know that alcohol is dangerous in small quantities and still do it.
Well, really quick, smoking has not gotten completely banned from it.
It hasn't been completely banned. It's been removed from polite society.
Yeah, they've basically just put us over in a corner, away from everybody else, out in the rain and snow, and say, here you go. But, you know, hey,
Exactly.
sometimes it's what you got to do if that's what you want. But that's another example
those same
right
people
there.
Who
Like
smoking from polite society know that drinking is, you know, potentially equally as dangerous as smoking.
Yeah.
And they're just like, it's fine. I'm gonna have a drink every day anyway. Like, none of those people would smoke a cigarette every day.
you know I do smoke cigarettes, so
You also already knew this was true. And
Yeah.
like I'm saying, I believe that you knew it. I'm just saying I don't think everybody knows it. I don't think it's common knowledge. Oh, you know what? An interesting thing that came up later is that, all right, I might get these terms wrong,
okay.
as I am not a scientist, but alcohol can affect your hormone balance, and it can cause you to absorb more estrogen into your system through by aromatizing it, which I don't think that has anything to do with smells.
It's fair to say that alcohol, and in particular the toxic metabolites of alcohol, increase the conversion of testosterone to estrogen.
The two things that can cause are estrogen related cancers and illnesses in women. They get too much estrogen, and that's kind of one of the reasons that alcohol can lead to increased breast cancer risk. And then it can lead to all of the same side effects as steroids in men: gynecomastia, low sex drive. So after all of this, I am not saying that nobody should drink ever, but I am going to be a hell of a lot more careful how and when and how much I drink. My mind is very important to me, and I don't get anything out of it anymore. I used to need to loosen up, to talk to people. Kind of the main reason anybody starts drinking in college and right after college in the first place. It helped, but I don't need it anymore. Like, it doesn't, there's no purpose to it. Had I known this, I would have drank less. At this point, I really don't have a reason to drink more than, I don't know. I think I've had 6 drinks in the last 2 months. You know, and you know, life goes on. I'm just as happy and satisfied, and I sleep better. So I really don't see a need to change that anytime soon.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about moderation.
It's a health decision that should not be taken lightly.
Absolutely.
And you should treat it the same way you would treat it as maybe not any other drug. You don't have to treat it as seriously as you would treat like heroin.
No.
For instance. But it's not coffee.
Hey. Let's not go knocking coffee here.
In context, I'm saying that coffee is safe.
Oh, yeah. I can get behind that logic.
If you have thoughts about alcohol, about its effects on your body, about how much you drink, how much somebody should drink, if you want to tell us that nobody should ever take a drink, or if you want to tell us that everybody should be drinking all the time, leave a comment. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.